When I lost both my older brothers and father all within 3 years of each other, I struggled to cry and even convinced myself that I was heartless. And I'm curious if you've ever wondered why you didn't cry after losing somebody that you love. Or maybe you feel like your grief doesn't look the way you think it should. Everyone grieves in a different way. And if you have experienced losing a loved one, whether it be a family member, friend, or even a beloved pet that died, my heart not only goes out to you, but I understand what it's like when you think you're moving on too quickly or not able to connect with the sorrow at all. It raises questions in the mind. Questions like whether or not you ever even loved them. I know this because I experienced it. In 2018, I tragically lost my oldest brother, Tory. In 2020, I lost my father suddenly, and in 2021, I lost my other older brother, Kelly, to an overdose. My name is Julian Miller, and I'm here to share part of my story and explore what it means to grieve in your own way. This channel is all about uncovering the thorns that are deeply rooted in our flesh, the struggles, habits, and mindsets that hold us back from living a life of value. I talk about how these thorns can impact our growth, and most importantly, how we can remove them one step at a time. Whether it's breaking free from addiction, overcoming loss of a loved one, or shifting our mindset, I'm here to empower you with the tools and insights to heal, grow, and thrive. Everyone grieves in their own way, and moving on too quickly can make you wonder if you're being heartless or cold. And smiling while grieving can feel conflicting and make you feel guilty. Grief doesn't have a clear beginning, middle, or end. It comes in waves. There's a quote by Keanu Reeves that goes, "Grief changes shape, but it never ends." My first time dealing with loss was when my oldest brother Tory died in 2018. Long story short, he was out hiking with our brother Kelly and their friend Matt when they came across an old tunnel entrance below a dam at the local lake. After deciding to explore inside of the tunnel, Tory had gone ahead of Matt and Kelly, and he ended up getting sucked into a raw water treatment pipe that took his body a mile and a half to a treatment plant that was right behind my parents' house. He drowned in the process. My mom used to go walking to this treatment plant every day. It was right behind our house, and that's where she'd wake up and she'd get her coffee and she'd go hiking to this treatment plant because it was a really pretty walk. That's where my brother's body ended up. I will make a future video of exactly what happened and the events that took place after. From me having an evil spirit attach itself to me in the forest near where my brother died, how it tormented me for years, to the divine and demonic experiences I had before, during, and after losing my father and older brother Kelly. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss those videos. Also, I will post a newspaper article and news video in the description below of how Tory died. To avoid confusion, know that Tory was our half-brother. Same mom, different dad, different last names. Our brother nonetheless. And even though the guy Matt that was there has the same last name as my brothers and I, there is no relation. After Tory died, Kelly had suffered from extreme survivor's guilt. He felt guilty for not being able to stop Tory from slipping into that water pipe, and for even being there in the first place. Kelly was already an extremely depressed individual growing up, and the survivor's guilt really took a toll on him, and he ended up passing in 2021 from a drug overdose. But to see my brother Kelly cry as hard as he did hurt me in ways that I will never be able to explain. And the fact that I wasn't able to cry like the rest of my family was, led me to believe that if I wasn't crying, I wasn't grieving. And Satan kept putting these little deceptive thoughts in my head that I call thorns. These thorns convinced me that if I wasn't crying, then I wasn't grieving, and then I never really loved my brother at all. So to numb myself from the guilt and shame, I fell deep into drugs. I would always go to the lake to where Tory had died, and I would sit there and try to cry, trying to connect with the loss. It felt surreal to me that the place we made so many memories growing up would be the last place he ever took a breath. Yet I was still unable to cry. You can't force something like that. It's like trying to force yourself to genuinely laugh when you're having a really bad day. I was sure that something had to be wrong with me. I wanted more than anything to be able to break down and bawl my eyes out like the rest of the family. I felt like I had to cry in order to honor my older brother and to show him that I loved him. But I wasn't able to, and I felt guilty. I had this expectation on myself of what I thought grief should look like. There's a Bible verse I often reflect on. Psalms 34:18, it's written, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit." And I believe it was God's closeness to me that helped me through that pain. It seems as though if we've been taught by society and culture that all grief looks the same, with tears, sadness, and emotional displays of pain. When we don't react that way, we feel as if we're doing it wrong, when in reality, everyone processes grief differently. That's a fundamental truth we need to accept. Some people might cry for days on end. Others might react with anger or numbing silence. Then there are those who might not cry at all. That's not because they're heartless, but because their emotional response is something more internal. Psychological studies have shown us that there is no right way to grieve. It's personal and unique. What's important is that you do grieve in your own time. Some people overwork, some isolate, some dive into distractions, some numb themselves to the world. The list goes on. When dealing with something so traumatic and personal, the most important thing we can do for ourselves is to be patient and have self-awareness. That way you can properly deal with it. If you're having trouble identifying which way you're handling your grief, then I challenge you to meditate on it. Spend some time alone and go inward. Give yourself permission to accept the hard truth that they are gone. Be honest with yourself about what you need and start taking steps in that direction. Once you become consciously aware of the pain instead of ignoring it, then you will be able to start working through it. Have faith and believe that you have what it takes to overcome it, and allow it to shape your heart, not harden it. If you find it hard to connect with the pain, there's a good chance that you're compartmentalizing it. This is something that mainly happens subconsciously. Compartmentalization, it's a hard word to say. Compartmentalization is a psychological defense mechanism your mind uses to put different aspects of your life in boxes or compartments. It tucks them away in your mind so you're able to focus on your day-to-day tasks without being overwhelmed by the pain or trauma. This has its benefits and setbacks. While it allows you to avoid emotional overwhelm temporarily, if it goes unchecked and you choose not to accept it, you deny yourself feeling those emotions. You may be able to stay numb for a short period, but unresolved grief and trauma are just repressed emotions. Over time, those emotions that got buried manifest into anxiety, depression, and addiction. This is what happens to people in the military, and we need to have patience, not only with ourselves, but also those that have gone through something difficult. My suggestion to you would be that you spend some time alone, meditate, and reflect. And most importantly, have faith and trust in the Lord's plan. Accepting the hard truth that they are gone does not mean forgetting about them. It's about allowing the pain that they are no longer here to heal and strengthen your soul and character in a way that honors them. Instead of facing the pain and sorrow of losing my family members and listening to the deceptive thoughts from the deceiver, I chose to numb myself with drugs, hoping that the hole in my heart would heal itself, which only made it harder for me to face my grief, which was when I finally chose to get sober and committed my life to Christ. In the early days of sobriety, I remember hearing this Bible verse. Matthew 11:28, Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are wearied and burdened, and I will give you rest." I was wearied and burdened, and I needed rest. I needed to be saved from myself and from the thorns that Satan had placed in my mind. At the time of recording this, I'm 18 months sober, and I'm now using that pain as motivation to help others on their journey. One thing I have to constantly remind myself of is that faith without works is dead. And though Jesus gives me rest, I have to choose to show up for myself every day and take proper steps to make sure I'm winning the battle in my mind so I don't get stuck in a state of self-pity and sadness. George Henry Lewes said, "The only cure for grief is action," and I have found this to be true. The most important things I can do for myself to win the battle in my mind so I continue to feel good, motivated, and energized are things like talking about what I went through, exercising, journaling, and reading scripture. Daily wins compound into greater feats, and the more you do something, the easier it is to stay consistent. The point is, grief is complex and shouldn't go ignored. You should try your best to carry it in a healthy manner and use it to relate to others so you can be a light for them. Psalm chapter 30 verse 5 says, "Weeping may last through the night, but joy cometh in the morning." The joy you long for is right around the corner. You just need to stay proactive. Face your demons, pull out your thorns, and seek refuge in the Lord. Allow your wounds that you face on the battlefield of life to strengthen you and build you into a person who can face adversity. Just know that you're not heartless. And if you still don't believe me, here's an empathy test. What happens inside when you watch this video of a kid being bullied? Or when you see this happy dog? Once again, if you want to read the newspaper article of when my brother died, then I will post both the article and news video in the description below. Let's continue to pull out our thorns together and discover the freedom that comes with living in alignment with God's purpose for us.